Hi, I'm Margaret Jurger, and I'd like to share with you some tricks that I've found that are fun and have helped children and adults read easier. I found these out as someone who's been working as a speech language pathologist for 45 years and as someone who's a mom and has done some research. I've put together 4 videos of different stumbling blocks that I've used tricks to help people read better. And they've been successful for me. And I was hoping to share them with you for free. Maybe it will be useful. Good luck. Today, we're going to talk about the second category listed here. Hopefully you've already watched the first part of that, which talks about what is phoneme awareness, how does it learned, how do we help improve it? And then today is about a technique of really addressing specific speech sounds and making a difference in the learner's life. Just as a reminder, the other categories we may or may not have looked at are about letter and word reversal and underlying capability, understanding speech sounds that can help in decoding from first grade on. But today, once again, we're just dealing with the system that is needed to help the ear become more capable. Before we really even get into that, I just want to emphasize this particular quote, that listening is not discretely different from speaking or writing. But this task allows us to become very specific with listening skills that then go on to support the speaking and the writing. This is a task that is also useful in developing articulatory skills and reducing accents. We're not interested today in that. We want to tackle what I call fuzzy boxes. So this is what I call the tapping game. And I'm going to go through it rather rapidly because you're going to be able to use this information. You can go back and refer to it yourself. It's rather detailed. I do that because I don't want you to feel that you can just do this very quickly. There are lots of little steps that are useful. So I call it the tapping game because I used a mallet here, but I couldn't get a picture of a coin, which would be like a nickel, because when you tap that on a table, it's very clear that that's what you hear. So you say you're going to be using this coin to tap on the table every time you catch me saying and I just chose the S sound right now, which I call the S sound, not my name, but the sound itself. And then you can win a turn at a game when you tap for every S sound. The game can be a game they select, Uno, War, that type of thing. We'll get into that a little bit later. What's the overall goal? To sensitize the ear to a specific speech sound. It is assumed that we figured out what speech sound might be most useful to this particular person. But there are major levels that we want to address in order to make sure that they have it clearly. We start out in isolation, the sound all by itself, and then go to nonsense syllables and then words. And then at the second level, you're in sentences, but you're going very slowly in the sentences. Like the word sentences actually has 3 taps. So you just can't assume that because it's one word that you tap once. So the last level is mastering it at the rate almost of speech. One of the problems that I have found in many programs is that it stops too short. An example in my life was a woman who was an adult who had been getting speech therapy for years for her lisp. She was capable of producing the correct sound, and in her speech sessions, she was doing pretty well. but none of it was taking hold on the rest of her life. I taught her this technique and then suggested she had a teenage son. And I said, have him help you out with this. He can be useful with this. And when she came back, she said, I had no idea there were that many S sounds out there. Now, how are we supposed to use them all if we don't know where they are? That's one of the things that we're training the ear to do. This is a detail of what you would do at the first level that we just talked about, which is the phoneme by itself and then nonsense syllables and words. And you can see how I've indicated how you're going to do that. I'm not going to go through that in detail, but this is useful for you to follow these rules and see that you first off start with things that are not at all like the sound that you're dealing with, and then you get the ones that they're confused with in isolation. These are a couple of reminders while you're in that stage. When they make a mistake, which they hopefully will, because you'll be able to see what the concern is, you can say, that's really tricky. They do look different. When you look at my mouth, can you see the difference? What's changed in my mouth? Get their description. That's useful. And then say, okay, let's do it with our eyes closed. Let's see what happens. And then I say, well, I'm going to give you like 3 in a row, and they can be all of them that you tap for, or one of them, or none of them. And then what you're doing is just contrasting the ones that are confusing. Then the second reminder would be they must win these turns until they really feel confident that the contrast is established. And you allow that person to describe it in their own words. Like, that one sounds kind of fuzzy to me. Is that the sound? The other one's not quite so fuzzy. So you use their vocabulary as you proceed. As you can see, that's number 4. Then number 5 is you stay until they are confident. Okay? You don't proceed. You keep notes on it. That's number 6. But you want to have them be very confident and win their turns. And as you can see, it's 5 out of 5 that you're after before you proceed on to the next level. So then the second level, you're going to be using the coin to tap on the table every time you hear the sound in the sentence that I'm reading from a book that you've picked. Later, one of the reminders is let them pick their favorite book, because the vocabulary that's in that is useful for their training of their ear. Like if it's Michael Jordan or something like that, then they feel like they're doing something important, but they're also getting the sound. They have to get the whole sentence correct to get one turn. Here are some reminders for that level. As I said, they can select the book. You want to start by emphasizing the sound, even though it's in a sentence. You can make it a little louder and longer and gradually decreasing, but you're still going after 5 out of 5. And you're going to start reading it 1 syllable a second. That's the first thing. And then you go speed it up a little and speed it up a little. You don't actually have to time your seconds, but you can see that there's a difference, and you're speeding it up because you're going to move in to mastering it. At this point, you say, I can't trick you anymore with this, and I have to read faster, and you won't be able to catch up with the tapping. So I need you to count them. So use your fingers because it's easier as you're listening. Put a finger up every time you hear it. And you get a chance to do it twice before you give me your answer in order to win your turn. And then your job is to review it. Now, you don't have to have noticed while you're reading it and count yourself, because you're going to do it when you do it together. And I'll show you. If I said, okay, I can't trick you at this rate, so I will need to read faster, too fast for tapping. Okay? The last one, which is like the words sounds in, oh, by the way, you're going to allow them to count this If it's a zzz like at the end, like it plays, it's too hard to tell if that's a Z sound or an S sound. So count it and ask them to count it too. If it's zoo versus Sue, I think you'd say, no, you can't count that one as a sound. Now, in this case, 9 out of 10 is really good. It's really tricky. Do this and have fun with it while you're doing it. I think when you're done this, you probably have got the ear ready to listen to the real world, and then the ear becomes a self-teacher, and you don't have to be running around continuing the process. What do you do now? If you want to contact me, I'm Dr. Margaret Jerger, info@soundsteps.net. You can make a comment, ask me a question. If you want to schedule a one-to-one, that's fine. Now, remember, I went through this kind of fast, but I want you to use this as a guide for yourself. Keep a copy of it so you can come back to it and say, oh, what's going to be next? And you consider, of course, the other things that you might want to look into if that happens to be your concern. You may not be concerned with your student or your child or your adult with reversals, but if you are, check out that video. There's another video on a variety of decoding using speech sounds. And of course, we just finished the tapping game and the first part of it of all about phoneme awareness. Thank you.